The Lubbock Avalanche Journal, over the weekend, a publication that has not done much in terms of covering the Lubbock County judge race, decided to release an editorial on Sunday. The headline from the AJ, Editorial, What Voters Need to Know About the Lubbock County Judge Runoff. Consider this editorial. What are they, Dan Jackson now? Dan should sue. Consider this editorial a public service announcement for Lubbock County voters. Runoff elections generally are not that sexy. Runoff elections do not generate much as far as voter turnout. Depending on the runoff, it's debatable how many voters are even aware a runoff is being held. Yes, Avalanche Journal, and you have not done anything on this runoff race. But good job informing people of what's been going on. However, Lubbock County voters need to be aware of Tuesday's upcoming GOP runoff for Lubbock County judge, and voters need to know the related facts. Remember that word, facts. The runoff pits Gary Boren and Curtis Parrish. One will succeed Tom Head, who is not running for re-election. The facts surrounding Boren are what voters need to know and consider in this race. In March 2007, Boren resigned from Lubbock City Council, citing in a resignation letter how increasing demands upon my time negatively impacted his family. There is more to the story, though, and more for voters to know come Tuesday. Boren's resignation coincided with the city's reaching a settlement with a city employee who filed a lawsuit against the city alleging wrongful termination. To put it in basic terms, the city employee alleged that council members, including Boren, violated state and federal laws by being involved in his termination. The AJ editorial goes on. This is how the Lubbock AJ reported the story on March 23, 2007. Quote, the accusations in the hundreds of pages of depositions describe several council members, but Boren most aggressively pressuring city staff members on employment issues that are not under council control. Only 5 positions, including city manager, are directly hired or fired by the council under the city's charter. Boren resigned. This is a fact. It has to be noted that former city manager Leanne Dumbald, quote, flatly denied there was a culture of pressure from council members to get rid of employees they didn't like. And like Dumbald said, she was not aware of any violations of the city's charter. Again, the city, and this is in big, bold letters, did reach a settlement agreement with an employee, and this is a fact. You know what, AJ? It's also a fact that the that the city settles just about every lawsuit that's filed against it. There's a reason why on this show we call it playing the Lubbock Lotto. You sue the city of Lubbock, most likely you're going to get some money. There have been people who have been tased, who fell over after being tased, clunked their head, and they were able to sue the city of Lubbock and the city police. So just because the city of Lubbock is sued and comes to a settlement doesn't mean there's guilt. The AJ continues. According to quote-unquote disclosed testimony reported by the AJ in 2007, testimony portrayed, quote, the two-term city official, in parentheses Boren, inappropriately pressuring staff to fire several city employees and forgive another. The deposition sworn to by current and former city staff as part of a wrongful termination lawsuit described a councilman frustrated by an inability to remove city employees that he felt were ineffective. While this occurred 11 years ago, the past is relevant when a person chooses to run for elected office, especially after previously holding a different elected position. What voters need to know about the past is that Boren resigned from the Lubbock City Council and the city reached a settlement with an employee who alleged wrongful termination. Voters can make what they want of this information and vote accordingly. So let me tell you what the AJ is really saying here. The AJ is telling you this is an endorsement of Curtis Parrish. This is a coward's editorial. The editorial board at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, whoever is on the editorial board, there are a bunch of spineless cowards. They don't put their name on their editorials. And they wait 2 days before an election to come out with this editorial. This has been a campaign going back months. And the AJ never did a story or wrote an opinion piece, an editorial, or did an endorsement on anything like this. So they wait 2 days beforehand. There is a reason why you're failing, Avalanche Journal. There is a reason why people think of you as a joke. And there are some good people over at the AJ. Don't get me wrong. There are a few good people who are at the AJ. And a couple of them I feel really bad that they're at that newspaper. Because this gives the newspaper and everybody who works for it a really bad name. Because they're a bunch of spineless cowards that they won't put their name on it. And they wait 2 days before an election to come out with Gary Boren resigned. And the city made a settlement in a lawsuit. That's your facts? That is what's supposed to scare voters? The city settles lawsuits every single year, it seems like. Stupid lawsuits that they should fight. But let's go ahead and say Gary Boren is guilty of this. All right, Jody? Let's go ahead and do that. Gary Boren is guilty of wanting to fire an ineffective employee. Damn. How can we go on as a city? If Gary Boren really did that, if he wanted to fire ineffective employees, how can we ever move on as a city? We might as well just fold up and let Wolfforth take over. Well, okay, we'll Divide it up. We'll let Shallowater have a piece, Idalou, Wolfforth. We'll let some other cities take over. But you wait 2 days before this comes out? And by the way, if the AJ had released an editorial that went after Curtis, I'd feel the same way. You had months to do an investigation. The AJ obviously did not do an investigation. If they did, they probably would have had more than voters can make what they want of this information. What voters need to know is that Boren resigned from the Lubbock City Council. Woo! Man, I'm telling you, that's damning evidence right there. The city settled a lawsuit. How many times has the city settled when the police have been involved? Jody, we've talked about that numerous times, haven't we? Where the city settles a lawsuit because someone got mad that a police officer tased a guy. Does that mean that the Lubbock police have been in the wrong in every case? No. In fact, what the city usually does is say, we're not admitting guilt in any of this. Leanne Dumbald said, we're not admitting guilt in any of this. No one pressured anybody. There wasn't this, culture of pressure, whatever. Yeah, culture of pressure from council members. But the AJ waits 2 days before an election. And I am probably giving this editorial a lot more coverage than what the actual editorial went out and was seen by. But this is dirty. This is dirty liberal politics right here. That's what this is. You see this type of stuff come out in Chicago. You see this type of stuff. I mean, this is dirty. There were people who were upset when Curtis Parrish came on this show on Friday and went after Gary Boren and brought up these allegations. There were people who were upset at Karen Gibson for doing the same thing, who came in just, 2 days before the election. At least they put their name behind it. At least they did so publicly. We don't know who wrote this editorial. We don't know who the editorial board is. We don't know who decided to write this spineless, cowardice editorial. What voters need to know about the race. Okay, so you say, you lead off with that the voters, here's what you need to know about the race, but you focus on one candidate and his resignation, and that's it. What about the other candidate? The AJ conveniently, what do they leave out here, Jody? When they say, when you hear from a newspaper, here's what you need to know about the race, don't you think you should know everything about the race? Don't you think you should list the endorsements that each candidate has gotten? Why did the AJ not publish that Chad C. and Jason Corley have endorsed Gary Boren? What about Ken Hance? AJ likes Ken Hance. They didn't put that in there, did they? At the time, they had no idea, but Sheriff Kelly Rowe, that's a pretty big name, has come out and endorsed Gary Boren. You want to look at the endorsements on Curtis Parrish's side? Now, I could be wrong here. I don't know of any elected officials who have endorsed Curtis Parrish. I know you have Matthew Harris, who wanted to lead the smoking ban in Lubbock. They came out, I get it. If we're going to inform voters of, tell the voters what they need to know, that is the headline. What voters need to know about the Lubbock County judge runoff. What you should have titled it is, you should have said what we think you need to know about Gary Boren. That's the editorial. The editorial is not what voters need to know about the Lubbock County judge runoff. The editorial is what we think you need to know about Gary Boren. Just absolutely spineless. You're a bunch of cowards at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. Your editorial board, just a bunch of spineless cowards. It's really embarrassing. Chad Hasty Show, KFYO.